storage is a really important thing if you are ever going to be keeping fuel on hand for longer than a month or so, because gasoline especially is the most volatile, and diesel isn't too far behind, but gasoline can go bad in as little as a month if the conditions are right. And so it's an important thing because if you have a generator, it's important that you have sufficient fuel on hand to get you through whatever circumstances you may be dealing with. And, you know, it's nice to not have to be going to the gas station every week with a 5-gallon container and just, you know, getting a few gallons at a time. So the two main rules, well, really, I would say three main rules of fuel storage would be: number one, try and keep the fuel as cool as possible. The hotter it is, the quicker it's going to degrade. Number two is moisture. Keep it as dry as possible. The more it's exposed to moisture, especially, you know, in the form of humidity or things like that, you know, drums sitting out in the rain, that sort of thing, it's going to be more likely for water to get into the fuel. And you want to keep water out of the fuel, moisture out of the fuel as much as possible, because that's going to be one of your main enemies that you're dealing with storing fuel. So anyhow, heat, moisture, and then the third thing would be to stabilize the fuel using some kind of a chemical stabilizer. And PRI is what I really recommend. This stuff, we have used it for years with excellent results. They make PRI-G for gasoline and PRI-D for diesel, and this is really good stuff. It's industrial strength. We have successfully stored gasoline in a hot and humid climate in not very ideal circumstances for, it was either 6 or 7 years, I believe, and it ran just fine in the car after that. Now, they recommend that you retreat it every, I forget if it's year or 18 months, something like that. But just between you and me, we only treated it once, and it kept it. I don't recommend doing that. I think we were pushing the envelope. I think you really should retreat it at least, you know, once every year to 18 months or something like that. But it's super concentrated. This bottle will treat 256 gallons. So you don't have to have a lot on hand. And their website is priproducts.com, and you can either order it online or you can find a dealer near you. But this is really, really good stuff. Highly recommend it. For adding it to your fuel, if it's like in a 5-gallon container or something like that, then you're going to be putting just a little over 1/4 of an ounce, and you can squeeze, they have a really handy measuring system where you can squeeze it, comes up the tube into here, and this is marked 1/2 ounce, 1 ounce, so on and so forth. And so for just a 5-gallon container, you can just pour in your little over 1/4 ounce and then shake it up. But when you're dealing with a larger container like this, it becomes a little more difficult. Even this is fairly simple. You can just rock it back and forth really good to stir it up. But in larger tanks, what they recommend is taking a hose, you know, you could even use a garden hose like this, and run it into the inlet into the tank, make sure the hose is clean, run it all the way down to the bottom, and blow into it for a few minutes. And they say that those bubbles in the tank can help to disperse the PRI in a tank where it's too big to shake it around and slosh it around to mix it up. That's what they say, that's what they recommend for doing that. Steer clear of, I wouldn't even waste your time with using stuff like Sta-Bil. This is really, in my opinion, the way to go. It's good stuff. And then as far as the type of container to store it in, yes, you can use 5-gallon containers if that's more convenient for you, but a lot of folks are going to find something a little larger to be more convenient. And so use a tank that is made for fuel. Don't use a water tank. Don't use a 55-gallon plastic water drum or something like that. This is a metal 55-gallon drum that's made for petroleum products. A lot of times at a oil company, you can pick these up for not much money, and they may have been used to haul hydraulic fluid or something like that. Sometimes maybe even fuel, but often it will be some sort of a petroleum oil product that was in here. So you just got to rinse it out with some gas, pour some gas in there and rinse it out and dispose of the gas, and then it's cleaned out. But This would be a good option for a medium-sized thing. It still is feasible to handle. You can take it in on the back of your truck, get it off. It's handy if you have a tractor with a front loader, but I've been known to get it off even without a tractor if you get a little creative. But if you want an even larger tank, then you can get larger, 300, 500 gallon fuel tanks, metal fuel tanks. And in those kind of situations, the fuel company or the oil company might even come out and fill up your tank for you and maybe even give you a bulk rate on the fuel. But one nice thing about having a larger tank is that when the fuel prices do go down, you can stock up. And so then you might be able to get enough fuel to get you through times when the fuel prices have spiked up way high. So, once again, we're trying to become untethered from this fuel, but it is a nice backup to have now while we have access to it.